Due to the obscene and ridiculous nature of this podcast, listener discretion is strongly advised.
Don't you hate it when you're craving wet, sour milk, but all you've got is fresh, sweet milk? Yeah, I hate that too. You know who else hates that? Vital Elements. The dairy specialists at Vital Elements have finally brought the Earth's finest milk to market. No, I'm not talking about prostate milk. I'm talking about skunk milk. Skunk milk is a bitter, lightly effervescent milk that will satisfy your craving for spoiled milk at any time, day or night. You used to have to leave your normal cow milk under the hot sun for a day or more for it to go sour. But with Vital Elements skunk milk, you can get that thick, sour flavor the moment you open the bag. That's right, skunk milk comes in single-serving bags like Capri Suns. Vital Elements has licensed Capri Sun pouch technology, and they're using it to bring skunk milk directly to your mouth. Here's another great thing about skunk milk that you might not know. It's a great, gentle cleaning product. I'm not talking about wiping down your counters and toilets with this stuff. I mean that it cleans your innards. I give myself a skunk milk colonic at least once a day, and my wife used to douche with skunk milk regularly. She doesn't do it anymore, but that's only because she's dead. Order yourself a few bags of shelf-stable skunk milk from Vital Elements today. If you order a case of 36 milks, they'll throw in a free bag of dried skunk penis jerky. Skunk rods are small, but what they lack in size, they make up for in flavor. Just like me, my rod is real tiny, but it tastes like corned beef hash. You know, the canned kind. I ate that a lot growing up, and I think that's why my little hose tastes like it. The weirdest part is that it doesn't smell like it. It smells like grilled onions, and it tastes like canned corned beef hash. But enough of me bragging about the flavor of my own penis. This ad is about Vital Elements skunk milk. Hey Marth, what do you think about skunk milk? You feed it to your family, right? You make your children drink milk from a skunk, don't you?
That's right. I drink the stuff myself, and my kids love it. They beg me for skunk milk bags every day. As soon as I get home from work, my little rugrats are clawing at my eyes, screaming as loud as they can, demanding that I give them more skunk milk. I do worry that it may be turning into an addiction. But can you really be addicted to something that's as good for you as skunk milk is? I don't think so. I'm not a scientist, but I don't think so.
Thanks, Marth. Thanks for your insightful take on Vital Elements' new skunk milk.
Secret Society of Fly Tyers. Wow. Wow, wow, wow.
Secret Society of Fly Tigers? What in the fuck is that?
I'm sick of this phony baloney.
The Secret Society of Fly Tyers, the Secret Society of Fly Tyers podcast, the best podcast about fly tying.
So, I set myself up for 12 episodes every season, and now it's bugging me that I won't get to cross the 50th episode threshold during season 4. That's just the way things are, though, and I'm not changing anything just to celebrate myself. I made the rules, and I try to follow them for some reason. I'm just kidding. Podcasts don't have rules. At least this one doesn't, you motherfuckers. Ha 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 ha. This is the most badass fly tying podcast on the internet. And no one tells me or my listeners what to do.
Thank you, king shit.
Sorry. Wait. No, I didn't mean that. I'm not sorry. But that got aggressive really quick. This is the second season in a row where I'm doing an episode without a guest. That might become a more frequent thing. Not that I don't enjoy meeting new people and learning from the masters of the game.
He's the master of the game.
I definitely do. but scheduling guests and editing interviews can sometimes be harder than just making an episode all on my own. Maybe harder isn't the right word. Less stressful is probably better. But I don't want to start out episode 47 of Secret Society of Fly Tyers whining. That isn't badass at all. So let me start over. My name is Mark, Marty, Maddie, Little Corn Pudding, and I love butts.
Oh my God.
Green butts, to be more specific. Not the long butt look that all the girls are wearing these days. Anyways, I decided to make an episode all about one of my favorite fly patterns, the Green Butt Skunk. Do you guys know if there's a variation on the pattern called a green boob skunk? If there isn't, I might have to try my hand at one. It could just be a booby fly like you might use at Pyramid Lake, but dressed up in green butt skunk clothes. Easy. Done. If you've listened to this show before, you probably already know that I get skunked a lot, so doing an episode on a pattern that has the word skunk in the name just makes sense.
Today, I am joined by a man who goes by the name the Skunk Master.
And I like to fish a green butt skunk, but don't go blaming my fairly consistent lack of catching fish on the pattern. It's definitely my fault. I lose focus. I get distracted. I might be stoned. Maybe I saw a bird, or I get a text about one of my friends having diarrhea. Maybe I don't have my terminal tackle setup tuned right. Maybe my sink tip is too heavy or not heavy enough. Maybe my leader is too long. My casting isn't great. I step down the run too fast, or I sit in one spot for too long. I might give it a half-assed mend or too big of a mend. My fly might get hung up on a rock and then I spook every fish within 100 yards. Or maybe I got spooked by a dog jumping into the river behind me. I might be paying too much attention to the baseball game on the radio, or playing air guitar to Thin Lizzy on my rod. I could keep going, but I'm just saying that my skunkiness is not due to the flies I like to swing. Where did that term even come from anyways?
I don't know. Why don't you tell us?
I'm reading that the skunk, as in the animal's name, is derived from a combination of Algonquin words meaning, quote, to urinate and fox. So, a pissy fox. I guess at some point they thought the skunk's stinky spray was pee. The first recorded use of the word for the animal was spelled weird. S-Q-U-U-N-C-K. It appeared on a list of animals that might rob your henhouse. I wish that was the kind of news we all shared with each other now, because these days the news of the world is bleak. Using the word skunk or skunked in a way to not just describe the little black and white striped critter started gaining popularity in the 1830s, and take this shit with a grain of salt because, as you know, half of your research results these days are just powered by AI, and it's telling me it started as being used to describe losing a game of checkers where you don't take a single checker from your opponent. It also means to run out on a bill, like stiffing your landlord on your monthly rent.
How dare you?
All of this to kind of express how bad it stinks to be in that position. Skunks piss out stinky pee all over everything as a last resort. It makes sense, right? Anglers have sort of taken over the term, if you ask me. Maybe because it's a pretty frequent position to find yourself in on the water. Even the best anglers get skunked. Anglers that don't pay attention to what they're doing, like me, might get skunked even more often. Do fly tyers use skunk hair? Yes, duh. I don't think there are many types of animal hair or bird feathers that fly tyers haven't tried to use at some point in the history of the craft. I'm going to dig into the origin of the green butt skunk pattern in just a few here, and my initial research tells me that skunk hair was part of the original recipe. I also learned about a prestigious club that I think I want to be part of. It's the Skunk Hair Club, and an angler/writer named Rob Hood started it up with his pal Michael Bauman back in the late 90s. How do you join the club? You find a dead skunk and cut its tail off with a pocket knife or a pair of scissors and then bring it home to tie flies with. You probably don't want to try this on a live skunk, but I'm not here to tell you what to do.
Oh my gosh. What do I do?
Mother Nature will work that one out for you, and I think it will end with you covered in stinky skunk piss.
What if the spray gets into your system? And how can a skunk kill you?
I'll read you a funny passage from the article I found on the Skunk Hair Club from bassresource.com. You don't just rush up and whack off the skunk's tail unless you're willing to pay the penalty. No one knows that better than Bauman, who became the second member of the Skunk Hair Club by passing its initiation test one morning on a fly fishing trip to Colorado. Bauman, who saw one of Rob's skunk hair jigs catch a bass, realized the qualities of skunk hair for his streamer trout flies, and when he spotted a dead skunk on the side of the road, he stopped his truck, pulled out his pocket knife, and went to work. Unfortunately, Bauman had a good idea but didn't have a sharp pocket knife, which slowed the process. There wasn't much odor at first, but it quickly worsened. Finally, Bauman couldn't hold his breath any longer. He sprinted away from the carcass about 20 yards, took a big gulp of fresh air, and then went back to the skunk to continue the tail removal. There really are no rules one must follow to pass the skunk hair cutting test successfully. A tail in hand is all that you need. But if the chore were to be graded, Bauman would have gotten a 70 at best, because he forgot a critical part of the procedure: to be gentle.
Hey, careful, man!
When he rushed back to the skunk and jerked the tail up to finish the task, he aggravated or activated the infamous pissy stench gland, and a jet of spray hit him square in the face, chest, and pants just as the tail was severed. Unfortunately, Bauman was a long way from anywhere. The air was cold, and the odor increased by the minute. His eyes even began to water. Chilled, he turned on his truck's heater, but that didn't last long. It just made the smell worse. His only recourse was to continue driving and occasionally stick his head out of the window for fresh air. That option, however, was abandoned a short while later. It was just too cold to keep his head outside the window for very long, and there was that repulsive odor. So it's a touchy process, but the end result is a big old poofy tail of black and white hair, varying in length, that could be used for classic wet flies, streamers, and anything else you feel like using it on, for free.
It's free! Free! You think this is charity, son? I'll show you free!
You don't pay anyone with money. You just pay with your own courage and take the chance of being pissed on by a dead animal known for its very smelly piss. Would you feel better about taking the skunk's tail if you didn't waste the meat? The dudes over at Meat Eater did a short episode as part of their series Pardon My Plate, where they cooked and ate 2 different skunks. One with a stink gland removed and one with it intact.
We have a trimmed piece and an untrimmed piece. You feel good about that? You think that's ready for the pressure cooker?
If you didn't know that was a skunk, you would you'd be like, hey, that's some good looking meat.
It's
a
tender.
Nice little layer of fat right there.
And it's dark.
Fine grained, man. Golly.
You can watch it yourself. I won't spoil it for you. But you don't hear many people boasting about how delicious skunk meat is, right? Lots of people say squirrel and raccoon are good to eat, and they aren't that far off from a skunk. We would all know by now if skunk meat was a delicious, viable protein source. And there's no shortage of skunks. We'll eat bugs first for some reason. I think I'd eat skunk first, though. I don't want to eat bugs. Those are for fish. I don't care what seasoning you put on them or if some culture enjoys them. I don't eat bugs. I like things that taste good and are meant for human consumption, like Guinness beer. At this point in my illustrious broadcasting career, it's pretty much the only sponsorship I'd gladly accept and would shill for on every episode of the program. That's probably not true, and I'd accept money from any product or business that wanted to pay me and would still let me write about the things that I like to write about. But if I had a choice in the matter, delicious Guinness beer would be at the top of the list. They don't need me or these hypothetical ads. I know. And if they were ever really considering being a sponsor of this show, they'd have plenty of reasons to quickly dismiss that idea, especially if they listen to this season of the show. I've been lewd and crude and overtly sexual for the last 11 episodes. That's the theme I've been defining for season 4. But let me remind you that the themes for past seasons have been topics like mental health, fish conservation, and quitting smoking. And no one can take those away from me. No one. Only I take those away, and only if I delete them from the internet. Maybe that's how the show will finally end. I do a final season, don't tell anyone it's the final season, and once that season is over, I delete every episode I've ever released, building a legend out of myself. I could be the podcast that no one has any proof ever existed, but talk about with fond memories that can't be confirmed by anyone. A fitting end to a conspiracy-angled program if I don't say so myself.
And the best part of this plan is, no one can stop me.
While I'm in this zone, can we keep Season 4 and the associated content and images between us, though? Just you listeners and me and the worm? Don't tell my parents, and definitely don't tell my kids. As far as they know, I ended the podcast after Season 3 because it was too successful and I didn't feel comfortable in the spotlight. But I got off topic there. I love Guinness beer, and I don't even like beer. And I don't like getting drunk either because I don't enjoy feeling queasy for any reason. So, just like the alcohol commercials suggest, I drink in moderation. But Guinness is smooth and texturally unique and comes with a little ball inside that makes it pour more like a draft beer, and it has its own protocol for pouring it correctly and even taking your first sip of a pint. I love the ritual. I'm easily swayed by a ritual. Pouring Guinness correctly and drinking it correctly out of the right type of glass are the kind of rules that I want to follow. You know I don't want anyone to rule over me, so there must be a good reason, right? Yes, a delicious adult beverage. Hey, do any of you guys work for Guinness? There's like 200 of you that hear this show, so there's a slim chance, I guess. My buddy Grant from the Gar episode works in beer. Grant, my dude, tell your Guinness people to call my people, which is me. Or at least put in a good word for your buddy Lil Corn Pudding. I'll be here, waiting by the phone for a call straight from Ireland.
Thank you for calling the Secret Society of Fly Tyers. How may I direct your call?
Hello, this is Brian O'Toole from the Guinness Beer Corporate Office in Ireland. I'm calling with a very special offer for this dumbass podcast. I'm just kidding, can you imagine? Please continue purchasing our beer for the rest of your life, you silly goon.
Okay, back to the topic of today's episode. I want to jump into the history of the Green Butt Skunk, and that means you're going to jump in with me. Where and when did the famous fly pattern start? If you want the history of the Green Butt Skunk, you got to start with a regular old skunk pattern. No green butt or any color of butt on the original. I found some info on thebendbulletin.com and compiled it together from a few other sources like Deneki Outdoors and Royal Treatment Fly Shop. So if I get anything wrong, don't freak out.
I am totally freaking out!
Here it goes. In the book Fish Flies, the Encyclopedia of the Fly Tyers Art, author Terry Hellickson gives the tying recipe for the original skunk fly. Its tail is crimson, red hackle barbs. The body is black chenille, ribbed with oval silver tinsel. The hackle is black, tied on as a collar, laying back and down. The wing is black skunk hair with an overwing of white skunk hair. Hellickson discusses the origin of the fly, credited by some to Wes Drain, a great name by the way, of Seattle, who tied a similar fly for the Stillaquamish River north of Seattle in the 1930s. Another claim, Hellickson reported, tied it to the North Umpqua in southwest Oregon. Hellickson didn't lend that one credence, but he was probably referring to the Mildred Krogel story. Mildred Krogel, another great name, was a fly tyer from Roseburg, and a lot of the early skunks came from her desk. My father, Hellickson wrote, obtained a sample of the fly from Jim Prey in 1934. I have concluded that it is most likely not an Oregon fly. The story goes on to tell of an angler in Fortuna, California named Benjamin Rosie Dexter. This story is full of great names, who had potentially tied the skunk pattern and fished it somewhere between 1908 and the 1930s. Among Rosie's best friends was Jim Prey, the owner of a small fly shop in Eureka, 22 miles north of Fortuna. Jim Prey sent a copy of Rosie's skunk off to Zane Gray, and the steelhead fly, tied with the hair of a common stink weasel, began to gain admirers in the Northwest. It has long been a favorite steelhead fly, although its offspring, the Green Butt Skunk, might be more effective. An angler named Dan Callahan added the green butt to the original skunk in the early 1950s. Tied in many variations, both the skunk and its kittens are topped with calf tail, sometimes black and white, and most often in white. But to get it right, a person wants to tie the pattern with skunk hair. add polar bear if you can find it. The author of the article favors the chartreuse tag on the rear of the skunk, but added that when he talked about it, he shivered. Quote, "If my dad saw me putting a green butt on that thing, he'd kick my ass."
It's just a friendly competition between father and son, where the father will kick his son's ass.
Here at the Secret Society of Fly Tyers, we're not kicking anyone's ass for adding a green butt to an awesome fly pattern to make it even more appealing to some anglers and the fish that they chase. The green butt is a good thing. We all know that if it ain't chartreuse, it ain't no use. Please excuse this brief interruption from one of our many sponsors.
I'm sick and tired of Gatorade. I hate Diet Cola. I don't want to drink expensive coffees. Water is boring and dumb. Thankfully, there's a new drink that you can chug until your guts are wet and saturated. Vital Elements presents Powdered Squirt. This bitter, nutrient-rich beverage comes in an easy-to-use powdered formula, and it's made from 100% real human lady squirt. It's delicious, but if you drink too much of it, it'll give you stomach ulcers. Simply take one of the Vital Elements powdered squirt sachets and empty the contents into your favorite glass or bucket. Then add room temperature milk and stir until the squirt granules are completely dissolved. Now just sit back, relax, and suck down gallon after gallon of the world's most perfect beverage, squirt from a human woman. There are several fun flavors to choose from. Well, flavors isn't really the right word. They all taste pretty much the same, but they have some that are chemical analogs of squirt, which was harvested from some of today's top pornographic superstars and scientifically analyzed by Vital Elements' crack team of squirt nutritionists. They've got squirt that tastes and feels like it came directly out of the vaginal holes of Lucy Gush, Henrietta Sideburn, Jessica Allergies, and my favorite, Stephanie Throat Rash. So get rid of your stupid sports drink and boring soda pop and start gulping down the good stuff with Vital Elements Powdered Squirt.
Dan Callahan's Green Butt Skunk is what inspired me to write this episode, though, not the original skunk, so let's learn a little bit about Dan the man. Dan Callahan was an innovative fly tyer, but that wasn't Callahan's only claim to fame. A lawyer by trade, he lived in Salem his entire life. After discovering fly fishing for steelhead on the North Umpqua, Callahan made it his life's mission to do all he could to protect that river. Dan loved to fish and photograph the North Umpqua River, with his unofficial residence being cabin number 1 at the Steamboat Inn. He was one of the founders of both the Steamboaters and the North Umpqua Foundation, 2 organizations that are focused on protecting the North Umpqua River. Callahan was a very accomplished photographer, and after his death in 2006, Callahan's wife helped to publish a book called Dan Callahan's North Umpqua, a collection of 156 of his photos taken over a period of 50 years. He was also a member and supporter of many conservation and fly fishing organizations. After Dan Callahan passed away, some close friends of his and other fly tyers he inspired got together to pay tribute. Their idea was a Green Butt Skunk fly plate featuring tyers from around the West. 4 years later, 101 Green Butt Skunks, the Dan Callahan collection, was auctioned off to benefit the North Umpqua Foundation, raising $6,300. Gratefully, the winning bidders have allowed the collection to be displayed at Royal Treatment's Fly Shop in West Lynn, Oregon. I would love to see that in person. While the Green Butt Skunk is not a revolutionary steelhead pattern, it nevertheless has become a well-known standard. No 2 from different tyers are precisely alike. While many anglers tie and fish the fly, everyone has their interpretation, with a single common thread running through them all: a green butt. Dan was better known as a photographer and angler than a fly tyer. His Green Butt Skunk is well tied but relatively rudimentary in the choice of materials, a reflection on the era, with a red saddle hackle tail, chenille butt, body, tinsel, rib, black saddle hackle, and white calf tail wing. The materials are available and inexpensive. There are a zillion variations on the pattern out there. I'll do my best to link to as many as I can in the show notes, but the recipe above is basically it. I've mentioned the Green Butt Silver Hilton mashup that I love that I first saw SSFT alumni Jim Sens tie on YouTube. I'm not sure I've ever tied a straight up traditional Green Butt Skunk actually. I like that variation I just mentioned, and sometimes I get even fancier just because. Another SSFT alumni, Jonathan Farmer, tied another one of my favorite patterns, his modern take on the Ackroyd. I simplify that just a bit and use Green Butt Skunk colors, and it gives me just a little more confidence in my fly. I like to start with one of the smaller sized Alec Jackson steelhead irons. There are many alternatives out there. Any sort of classic salmon fly hook would probably do just fine. I'll use red golden pheasant crest if possible, but a hen hackle will do as the tail, and then tie in some silver oval tinsel as sort of a small first butt. It's like a double butt, I guess. And then I noodle on some Senyo lizard fusion dub, and do the little trick that Jim Sens taught me in his Green Butt Silver Hilton video, and make a dubbing loop and spin that lizard green butt in so it's extra tight, and wrap it into the second little butt section. Then I tie in some more silver oval tinsel that will wrap its way around the black dubbing part of the body, which leads into wrapping a hackle of ringneck pheasant rump, followed by a few pieces of red or green dyed Lady Amherst tail feather fibers, and then I wrap a natural gadwall or teal feather in front of that, and I cap it off with white turkey feather for that white part that is usually skunk or polar bear. With this pattern, the world is your oyster, as they say. Do with it what you please. The Green Butt Skunk color scheme is almost a theme of its own at this point that can pretty much be applied to any fly you want, and it's instantly recognized. Tie it onto a shank with a stinger hook. That's cool too. Tie it as small as you can. Fish will eat it. Tie a big ol' honkin' one on a 45mm Waddington shank or a 245mm Waddington shank. Don't let anyone tell you what to do with your art, man. But that's a pretty dang cool pattern to have pioneered if you ask me. Great job, Wes Drain and Dan Callahan. Thank you for your service. The Green Boob Skunk will not gain the same notoriety. I can guarantee it, even if boobs are really cool, and they are. If you haven't touched one, I suggest that you do, with consent, of course.
What do you like in the bedroom? How can I please you? You'd be like, well, I love my balls sucked, but I don't like them licked. So it can be really fun to have that conversation, you know?
Do I have to explain how someone should fish a green butt skunk? I don't think so. Tie it onto your line and throw that shit in the water. It doesn't really match the hatch or anything that occurs naturally, and that's part of what makes it so cool. Come to think of it, most of the swing flies that I tie and fish don't really exactly match anything in the river or lake or ocean or wherever I try to fish. The fly appeals to me first, and then I try to convince a fish that I've never met to agree with me. That's like half of steelheading, right? What a bunch of stubborn, idiotic gluttons for punishment we are. We purposefully do things all wrong against nature's code to try and get to the finish line with a steelhead in the net. It's no wonder they call it the fish of 1,000 casts. It's not because they're super elusive, it's because everything everyone has ever written about steelheading pushes anglers to do things that aren't supposed to work, and we still love it. I am part of the club, but give me a fucking break already. Is that whole mindset directly translated into how I put this show together? I definitely take the long road and make things as tedious as possible to then release new episodes just to hopefully find myself inserted into the lexicon of the fly tying community. There is something built into us that craves failure. I know it's the main way that I learn in life in general, but all of my many failures fishing-wise have not yet resulted in any type of confidence on the water. Have I just been refusing to learn from my mistakes? It's kind of tough when you greatly enjoy the environment and pastime where you are failing consistently. At least with other sports like baseball, there's a winner at the end of the game. But honestly, a day on the water swinging flies and making some decent casts is still awesome. A fish in the net is an added bonus. A little wink from Mother Nature that I'm not out here totally alone, never experiencing any success. And I'm going to be spending even more time on the water now, literally, because I've become a water master. No, I didn't master the water. I haven't been dubbed a water master. I bought one, you big dummy. My good buddy Steve convinced me he needed a water master buddy, and I forked over the cash and joined the club. So far, I've only floated it down the Lower American River here in my neighborhood and the Trinity River, but we have grand plans to hit all sorts of cool places. It feels like I just opened a new map in a video game. I have brand new access control rules at my fingertips, and it fits in my Toyota Prius. How many boats can do that? Not many, okay? I know. And if you're yelling at your car stereo or computer or whatever about another boat that can fit into my stupid hybrid sedan, I can't hear you. Your listening device isn't also a direct phone line to me, and these episodes are pre-recorded well before you hear them. I write them, actually. Did you know that? Jesus Christ. I should probably line up an interview with the man behind the rafts, Rich Stuber, for next season. That's how I usually do things here. I buy the product, and then I want to set up the interview. I'm not a slimy podcast host that asks people to come on the show in order to get free stuff. Now that I have a Watermaster, the Kodiak to be specific, I want to hear about how Rich started making them and the trials and tribulations. I want to know how many people out there own them and hear how many cool Watermaster adventure stories he has. I don't have any complaints about mine. No gripes. It's just fun, and now that I've rowed this thing, I won't be as scared next time I'm out with a guide and he asks me if I want to try rowing the boat. If you also have a Watermaster, let's start a real club, okay? You don't have to cut off a skunk's tail to be in this club. You just need a Watermaster raft. We could roll down a river like a big gang, and everyone would run in fear like we're modern Vikings. That's what everyone thinks about fly anglers, right? We're terrifying and strong. I know this episode's pretty short, but I'm going to end on that note. I hope you enjoyed my little presentation on the Green Butt Skunk, a fly I love very much, and steelheaders around the globe agree with me on that one opinion. Probably not on many of the other opinions that I've expressed on this show. Next episode is a season wrap with my friend and the commercial spokesman for the Vital Elements Corporation, The Worm. If you have any questions that you'd like me to ask them, please send me a DM. I'll ask them anything, so give it your best shot. I'll leave you with one more final recommendation to wrap up all the recommendations I've given you throughout this new season. I probably won't bother with one in the season finale. This one's a book. It's called UFOs and Nukes: Extraordinary Encounters at Nuclear Weapons Sites by Robert Hastings. I'll read the description for you all. The reality of UFO incursions at American nuclear weapons facilities has been convincingly established. Hundreds of U.S. military veterans now openly discuss these ominous incidents, and thousands of declassified government documents substantiate their revelations. Over the past 4 decades, renowned researcher Robert Hastings has interviewed more than 150 of those veterans regarding their involvement in these astounding cases. On September 27, 2010, CNN live-streamed his UFOs and Nukes press conference in Washington, D.C., during which U.S. Air Force officers described numerous nuclear missiles mysteriously malfunctioning moments after a disc-shaped craft was observed hovering near their underground launch silos. That shocking episode, which is said to have occurred in March of 1967, was merely the tip of the proverbial iceberg. Documented UFO activity occurred at a plutonium processing plant in Washington state as early as January 1945, months prior to the atomic bombings in Japan and the Roswell crash in 47. Another incident in October 2010 involved one missile base in Wyoming being unable to communicate with several of its missile launch control capsules just as a huge cigar-shaped craft slowly flew over them. Significantly, documents smuggled out of Russia in the 1990s confirmed that Soviet nukes were also the focus of UFO interest during the Cold War era. On one occasion, in October of 1982, a number of missiles temporarily activated for launch, as terrified officers attempted to disrupt the unauthorized countdown. After 15 seconds, the anomaly terminated and the equipment returned to standby status. While this was taking place, an enormous disk silently hovered over the base. In short, the evidence presented in UFOs and Nukes makes clear that humans' deadliest weapons have been, since their development and use during World War II, under intense scrutiny by still unidentified observers. possessing tremendously advanced technology. Given these disclosures, it seems evident that the UFO nukes connection is highly significant, and perhaps even the key reason these mysterious aerial craft have appeared in our skies over the past 7 decades. The evidence is all there for you to pore over, and in incredible detail, sometimes mind-numbing, redundant detail. But it proves its point. It just raises the question even stronger than ever. Who or what are flying in these UFOs and orbs? Whatever it is, doesn't want us to blow shit up anymore. I highly suggest this book and any presentations or interviews you can find with the author. Very genuinely convincing stuff. You know that I don't think there are Martians piloting these UFOs. I don't need to tell you that. Unless by Martian, you mean some advanced race of humans that may have once lived on Mars and escaped a cataclysmic event that destroyed their planet, and they ended up here living secretly in some kind of breakaway civilization. I might believe that kind of Martian. Anyways, good book. Good night. Thank you for listening.
Here's a commercial for you idiots. Do you know what Gushers are? They're fruit snacks that are filled with sugar goo. Do you know what that is? Have you eaten Gushers? I have. They're good. But they're not good enough, so Vital Elements did us all a favor by making adult Gushers. They're the same sweet fruit gummies, but instead of being filled with sugary syrup, they're filled with semen or squirt. Or there's a third option where it's mixed together. Those are a little too strong for me, but I like the semen ones and the squirt ones separately. It's just too much when they're mixed together. Sometimes you can have too much of a good thing, and that's how I feel about the third flavor. But again, the other 2 flavors are really good. I like them a lot. I gulp them down. It feels really good to finally be able to eat semen and human squirt in public without getting in trouble. Thank Christ Vital Elements did what needed to be done. Thank God in heaven that they stepped up to the plate and made adult Gushers so we can all enjoy them together. You must be 35 or older to purchase adult Gushers. Adult Gushers may cause temporary blindness, impotence, and diarrhea. Some users also reported getting pregnant after they put adult Gushers into their vaginas and buttholes, so don't do that. Please consult with your physician before consuming adult Gushers if you are pregnant, trying to become pregnant, or you watch pornography that features pregnant performers. Do not drive or operate threshing machinery while consuming adult Gushers. Please contact the police if you have an erection that lasts for more than 90 hours. Please enjoy responsibly. Please note that this is not a real advertisement, and the company, brand, entity, or product mentioned in the preceding ad in no way endorses, agrees with, or knows about this podcast.